the first thing is usually not the attack. The first thing the enemy goes after is not truly what he wants. I didn't realize how much I loved comfort until trials and temptations started happening more in my life. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Onika Webb, and my goal here is to help you unlock your hidden power so that you can bring forth your God-given excellence to the surface. I attract people who are ready to grow. So if you are here, welcome. I'm happy to have you. Let's dive in. So I've been reading the book of Job in the Bible. And if you've never read it, or if you've read it and forgotten it, I'm just going to give you a quick refresher. So Satan went to God. He's in line waiting with the angels, and God's like, where you been? And he's like, I've been roaming around this earth, to and from. And basically he's looking for his next victim. And God's like, have you considered my servant Job? God said that. God's like, he's blameless, he's upright, he shuns evil, and he fears God. There's no one on the earth like him. And Satan's like, well, duh, I have. But you have a hedge around him. You have been protecting him, his family, his household, his sheep, his flocks. I can't get to him. But Satan's like, if you stretch out your hand, strike everything he has, he will surely curse you to your face. So Satan's like, if you put that hedge down and stretch out your hand and strike him, I am sure he's going to curse you to your face. Satan's basically saying he only loves you because of what you've given to him. He's only there for you because of what you've blessed him with. And God's like, very well then. You can touch everything he has, but you cannot touch the man himself, as in Job. You can't touch his body. That was the first time. Obviously, it continued in the story. I'm not going to go that far because of where I am in the text today. So here we go into the text now. From the beginning, we realize that Satan is always looking for an open door. If you watch my previous video, you'll see that I talked about that, about the vision that I had, the emotions that we hold on to that can lead to an open door. So if you haven't watched that, please watch it. I'll drop the link below. In the beginning, we realize that Satan is always roaming. 1 Peter 5:8 says this so well. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So he's always after us. He's always trying to find a way to devour, to attack, to bring us lower than who God has called us to be. And so Peter says to be sober-minded, and this can also mean to be well-balanced and to be self-disciplined. And here's an analogy that the Holy Spirit gave me that I want to share with this one to better understand it. So the individuals who drive the arm trucks, and they go from businesses, from corporations to banks, and they carry a lot of cash. They're pulling it out and make sure that it goes to the right place. And so they have a very important responsibility for corporations and for banks. They have to remain alert and cautious on their routes with the patterns that they take. They cannot make a silly decision that will cost them millions of dollars. So think about the extensive background check that they have to go on. Think about the extensive training that they have to have so that they can do this job. And it's the same way for us. We cannot afford to not pray. We cannot afford to not read, because that is how we protect and that's how we grow in Christ from the adversary. Because we heard it in the text. He's prowling around. He's trying to find his next victim. And we'll get to Job in a second. But that is what he does. I've, in the past year, fallen in prayerlessness for a long time. And there's a lot of reasons why this can occur. But one of the biggest ones I've heard as well, and I've learned through, is faith. Lack of faith in your situation, in where you are, can cause you to not pray. But also literally spiritual warfare, like feeling attacked, it will dim your light, it will dim your spirit, and you will feel like you cannot pray. But I want to encourage you today, because that is how we remain grounded in our foundation. Even when you don't feel like it, pray. Even when you don't feel like it, read the Bible. I'm telling you this from experience. I wish I had listened to this advice that I'm giving you now. But anyway, because we see in the text that we're always going to have trials and tribulations in some way, we see that this is how we have to remain grounded. Just like the armed trucks, the people in those trucks, we got to stay vigilant because he's always prowling around. The next part is that we also see that God has to give Satan permission to even attack Job. God shared the qualities of Job. He said he's blameless, he's upright, there's no one on the earth like him. He fears God and he shuns evil. That is like the best traits of a servant in God's eyes. So he's saying that he's the best person that I have, but I'm going to recommend him to go through this trials and tribulation. Why? God trusts Job. God trusts Job. And that's why he encouraged and that's why he trusted him to be the one that the enemy, that Satan, could attack. As God uses people he can trust. I think Job was used not just for the story, but I think he was used for a sign and a wonder. Not just for him, but for his friends. Because if you continue in the text, you read the text that his friends were just like, you have sinned, you have done something wrong. You are not, they're basically saying like, he's not righteous. He's like, no, he's like, he has to battle standing up with his friends throughout the whole text. But I think God wanted to use him to correct his friends' understanding. And that's why God put these texts in the Bible as well, to correct our understanding of trials and temptations, of whatever he's trying to teach us. But anyway, Satan says, Job will curse you to your face if you no longer protect him. And God trusted Job to say, go after Job. Let's see if he does that. And the last part of that, I looked up the qualities of a prowling lion. They approach their prey quietly. They are cautious. They roar to scare their prey into submission. So sometimes sometimes the enemy ain't even attack yet. He's just roaring. They attack in the dark and they ambush their prey to move carefully until they're close enough to attack. So some of what you experience is a roar. It's not even the attack yet. The first thing that happened with Job was the death of his children, his sheep, his flock, everything, except his wife. And he just fell on the ground and he worshiped. He gave God the power that you have the power to give and to take. That is all on you. That was only the first part of the attack. The second part of the attack was his whole body getting filled with sores, his wife turning on him, his friends turning on him. So it was like a trickle effect. The first thing is usually not the attack. The first thing the enemy goes after is not truly what he wants. And so that's what I want us to remember, to that God's sovereignty is in control of all things, good and bad. He permits his children to endure testing. He understood that. Job understood that. And that is why his first response was to fall on his face. Now let's go into why God allows trials and temptations in our lives. Here's the secret. God expects us to be able to endure trials and temptations. That is the expectation of him, and we see this through the text. But here's what I said when I read it and when I was doing my deep dive. I didn't realize how much I loved comfort until trials and temptations started happening more in my life. I did not realize how much I loved comfort until more trials and temptations started to happen in my life. Because my first response is like, bro, I just want to get back to my routine. We about to get into it. One writer says, suffering teaches us about our own insufficiency and lead us to a greater faith in God. God requires his saints a faith that perseveres patiently under adversity. Here's what I realized after this. I know how to persevere under adversity. I just don't know how to do it patiently. I will do what I need to do to end it as fast as I can. I'm just I want to get back to my routine. I want to be comfortable. I want to just have a plan. That is me. I like that comfort of just knowing what I need to do and do it. But when I get to my breaking point, when I've done all that I can and I reach that breaking point and God's like, finally, you can let go and rely on my strength, because I've been using my strength this whole time trying to get through this as fast as I can. Because remember, I don't like to do it patiently. I like my comfort. I've been trying to do this in my own strength, and God breaks me. He has to break you to build you back up, and he breaks me. He brings me to that breaking point, and he says, finally, you can start relying on me and not your own strength, because it can only last so long. Relying on your strength, your own strength, can only last so long. If you continue reading the book of Job, you'll see how long he went back and forth with his friends day and night, and his body was filled with sores, and he did this patiently. Here's what I learned from the text of why God allows trials and temptations in our lives. 1, to test our faith, so that it may be perfect and complete, finished, brought to maturity. James 1 verse 2-3 says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This is one way that God grows us. If we always remain comfortable, we are never going to be growing in him. We have to grow so that he can bring to completion what he has started in us, which has started since we were born. And so it's to test our faith. Number 2, it's to build endurance. Hebrews 12 verse 3 says, consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you may not grow weary and lose heart. Jesus endured the cross, and that's what this text is referring to. He was spit on, he was beaten. Let's not even go there. But everything that he went through, he endured it because he thought about the joy that he was about to have after it was over. So we'll get into that a little bit in a second. But to build endurance in us, to build strength, and to push through the difficult times. That is one of the reasons why, because that is life. Stuff's gonna happen that is not in our control. And then number 3, for correction and discipline. The Lord disciplines the one he loves, just like a father does. You want your child to be the best. You want your child to be walking on the right path. And so you're going to correct them. You're going to discipline them when they're steering the wrong way, or when you need to grow them to be prepared for the next. And that is how I see that. Number 4, for signs and wonders. Remember, I told you, I think God also used Job because he wanted to be able to be a sign and wonder to his friends, and not just his friend, but everybody in the community. They were laughing at him when he was in that state. And so he wanted Job to be a sign and a wonder of what he can do. He can restore, even just for us, he can restore what's been lost. He can restore it. Let's not talk about them children. Like, your children die and you gonna give me new children. I still miss my old children. But it is only God that can give that satisfaction, that fulfillment to you. It's not things, it's not people. In Deuteronomy, the children of Israel in the wilderness for 40 years, their clothes did not wear out, their shoes did not wear out. They were able to endure what they were going through because of God. When we ask God to use us, he will use us as a sign and wonder to show our family members, to show our coworkers, to show our friends what he can do, what he can be capable of, so that they can start to search for him. Those are the 4 things that I think why God allows trials and tribulation. Now, I went through this and I'm like, but God, how do I practice this? For me, it's always gonna get practical, because Jesus is the ultimate teacher. He's our rabbi. And so we are striving to be like him. And so I need to know what I can do to be in as close as alignment to that as possible. And so for me, I'm like, God, I need practical steps on how to endure trials and temptations. And there were 5 things he shared with me. But one thing before we even get to the strategy, always the first question to always ask is, who sent it? When you feel like you're about to go through some trials and temptations, ask yourself who is sending it to you, because that will also determine how you will fight. If it is from the enemy, if it's from God, you will know how to fight for it the right way. Here is the strategy to endure trials and temptations. Number 1, joy. Think about the joy that you are fighting for. God has given you a vision. He has given you a purpose. He has given you something that he wants you to work towards. The enemy don't want you to do it because it's going to get you closer to your destiny. So the first thing he's going to do is try to attack that. He's going to try to either attack your clarity or your vision. And so when we think about Jesus here in Hebrews 12 verse 2, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Because of what Jesus knew that he was going to have, he endured the cross. He thought about the joy. Think about the joy of the vision God has given you and how accomplishing it would make you feel. Think about that, how that would be impacting the kingdom. Think about that. So one, think about the joy. Allow yourself to think about it and what God will be able to do through and in you. Number two, spend time praying. I told you this before at the beginning. Praying, reading, and studying. Jesus went away in the mountainsides to always pray and spend time alone with God. We ought to do the same regardless of where we are and what we're doing. Intentionally spending time with him. In the mornings, in the evenings, in the afternoons, whatever it is, whatever's best for you, or praying at those times as well. Number three, be honest. Express how you feel. If you read the book of Job, he's crying, like he's expressing fully to God. He is just really honest and transparent about the pain that he's feeling, about the earth, about God's power. He's very transparent. And Jesus did this in the Garden of Gethsemane. He said, if possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not my will, your will be done. Jesus is like, God, I'm rethinking this cross thing, and if it's possible, can we not do it? But I'm gonna surrender to you because it's not my will, it's your will. And so be honest. Express to God when you're having difficult times. Express to God when you're not feeling the way you normally feel. Express it to him. Be honest. And number four, trust God. Neither Jesus or Job harbored resentment or regret. They were trusting him along the way. Jesus never sinned his entire life on the earth. And so don't harbor regret or resentment because of the things you're going through. Trust that God has a bigger plan for you and be hopeful in that. He does. I promise you, he does. His plans are way better than ours. And number four, a community. Jesus had his disciples. Job has his friends. Who do you have? You need a community of people on the same walk as you that are experiencing challenges that you can learn from, who are in the same faith. And so I don't know, I felt called to do this. And so I am starting a mentorship in my community that I've been building. I was just going to have a general community. I'm going to be having a mentorship aspect in there. And I would love for you guys to join once I drop it and once I put it out there. So you can sign up in my newsletter below if you would like to be notified when it comes out. But in that, we need a community because it is in that we're able to grow. We have people to lean on in those difficult seasons that we're having. It's time for you to bounce back from the hardships that you've had. You are made for more. I hope this video blessed you. Thank you for staying here till the end with me. Please like and share it with someone and comment what your biggest takeaway was from this video. I love you guys. Until next time. Bye.